For me, it is an honor to be here once again and to address you all today in order to discuss, as it has been named, our Silk Route Partnership for Migration, launched some years ago, as well as the challenges still lying in front of us. Being so numerous here attests the fact that in our globalized world, human mobility, as many other aspects of our lives, can only be addressed effectively, as I said in the beginning, together. No country, I repeat, no country can manage this alone. This is the conclusion, the first conclusion, and the lesson we learned in Europe. When 5 years ago, Europe was taken by surprise and was totally unprepared, including member states, and we had to start building our migration policy from scratch, from nothing. But definitely we're not where we were 5 years ago. We've done a lot, and you're aware of what we have been doing in order to address this very important issue that will define the future of our world. Also, the future of our nations, because it has become one of the top issues in the global political agenda, exploited by populists who are fostering and fueling xenophobia, which is against the values and the principles of our humanity. And the Secretary General of the United Nations was very clear before when he addressed this issue. Now, building strong partnerships with countries of origin, transit, and destination of migration is a key feature of the European Union's migration policy from day one. Our primary objective is to build an organized, sustainable management of human mobility, respectful of human rights and inspired by the principles of solidarity, partnership, accountability, and sharing of responsibility. This is the only way forward. This explains the importance of our partnership along the so-called Silk Route, which allows us to work hand in hand and engage in a targeted and coordinated dialogue on migration mobility between countries on the European and Asian continents. A partnership based, yes, I agree, on mutual respect and understanding. The term Silk Route, of course, evokes the ancient trade route which primarily, as you all know, carried goods, but also ideas and people between civilizations in an era where there were no borders and no passports. For centuries, this route has been characterized by a variety of movements and mobility for different reasons. People seeking to do trade and business, looking for opportunities to build a better life, or actually fleeing conflict and war. In other words, migration has been and continues to be an internal part of this route. But not only of this route. In recent decades, migration has been on the rise globally. Some believed in the beginning that it was a problem of Southern Europe, but it was not the case. Very soon we all realized that it transcends borders and continents. And you see what's happening right now, not only in Europe, but also in the United States and in Asia, everywhere in the world. The past years have been especially challenging for all of us in this respect. We have encountered unprecedented migration and refugee crisis, which deeply affected, first of all, the people on the move and their communities back home, but also the countries which were confronted with their transit or arrival. And we must be aware that the geopolitical instabilities that lie in the origin of the movement still exist, and we do not know for how long. This is why we must continue our joint work of preparation, coordination, and mutual support, and further enhance our collective capacity to face these common challenges. We can build on the important results we have already achieved together. The first one I would like to mention is the EU-Turkey Statement, an initiative which the European Union and Turkey have jointly taken in 2016. We all remember what was the situation at that time and where do we stand now. I remember that the year 2015, more than 14,000 crossings per day over the Aegean Sea were taking place. Now the numbers have gone down to 50 or 60 persons. A manageable situation. Since then, it has continued providing an important example, this statement of how close cooperation between true partners can bear very tangible results in full respect of international law and human rights. The essence of this cooperation lies not in the drop of irregular arrivals. It's not only about numbers. It lies in the generous hospitality of Turkey, willing to host almost 4 million refugees, a choice which we cannot commend enough, and in the European Union supporting international organizations on the ground in doing so. Together with Turkey, we have delivered on what is the most important: saving migrants' lives, protecting refugees' rights, preventing the use of irregular and dangerous migration channels, and fighting effectively against smugglers and traffickers. Another example of cooperation I wish to mention is the growing and comprehensive engagement between the European Union and Afghanistan. This has produced the signature in 2016 of our joint way forward, and in the year 2018 of the Cooperation Agreement on Partnership and Development. This engagement is important for the stabilization, reconstruction, and prosperity of Afghanistan. It has also contributed to making progress towards a comprehensive and durable solution of the situation of the Afghan refugees dispersed in the neighboring countries. The European Union is committed to continuing supporting Afghanistan and to facilitate the return and reintegration of its sons and daughters back home. At the same time, we are also working very closely with Pakistan and Iran. The European Union assists and facilitates the social integration of the millions of Afghan refugees whom they are hosting on their territories. Pakistan and Iran are two countries with which we are equally determined to deepen our dialogue and cooperation at bilateral level on migration and many other matters, building on the progress already made. We intend to make a similar offer to another key partner country of the Silk Route, Iraq. We are already cooperating with Iraq and assisting its refugees and internally displaced people. Following the recent entry into force of our partnership and cooperation agreement, we want to also engage without delay in a bilateral dialogue aimed at establishing an operational cooperation in all aspects of migration management. Finally, I want to also refer to our very constructive relation with our Bangladesh partners for the effective cooperation on migration management that we have established since 2017, and for the long-standing hospitality and efforts Bangladesh has been offering to the Rohingya refugees population, which we have been supporting at humanitarian and political level. Dear colleagues, these few examples show that our cooperation is not limited to mere words, but is reflected in very concrete and tangible actions. We need to build on this. I see the following areas where we need to enhance our actions and cooperation. Further addressing the root causes of irregular migration and forced displacement. More effectively managing our borders, and we've done a lot in the European Union, as you know, by establishing the European Borders and Coast Guard. Cooperating with all countries in order to better manage our borders. Being even more relentless and uncompromising in our fight against all criminal transnational networks involved in migrant smuggling and all forms of illicit trafficking. The cooperation between Europol and all countries has proved itself very effective on that. Protecting more extensively the lives and rights and the dignity of migrants and refugees, wherever they are, offering pathways for refugees' resettlement, adopting a clear framework for legal migration while ensuring more systematic and effective cooperation on return, readmission and reintegration of irregular migrants, in line with the established principles and international law obligations, as well as the agreed arrangements. By sincerely working together in addressing all these challenges, I'm sure we can manage to build a better organized, more sustainable and a fairer system for migration management in our neighborhood and globally. This will ultimately also strengthen overall stability in the region, which is a key prerequisite for attracting sustainable investments, for further facilitating people-to-people contacts, promoting economic ties, and boosting prosperity and peace for all. Dear Chairman, my dear friends, Mr. Soilu, ladies and gentlemen, what the recent refugee crisis has taught us all, as I said in the beginning, is that no country can deal with such a crisis alone. No country can be ready to respond to the challenges of today and of tomorrow because we don't know what the future is holding for us. Without close cooperation with its partners at all levels and all relevant fora. Countries that do not choose this path will end up isolated. And this is also what the experience of the last few years has shown, that precisely and only by working together we did manage. The results are there. What matters now is that we continue, expand and enhance such efforts in order to build a common global architecture in managed migration, because migration came to stay, and whether we want to admit it or not, it will be there for many, many decades. So one of the roles of conferences like this, of meetings like this, is to put the basis for our future global cooperation. Our coming together here is an essential step, but it cannot just remain with words and pretty intentions. When we all leave this great city, Istanbul, at the end of this conference, we cannot leave behind our commitments and responsibilities. Better managing migration will continue to be a global task for decades, as I said, to come. The immediate crisis as such may be over in some areas, but human mobility is the reality of today and of the future. We live in the era of human mobility. Getting this right for the long term, it is in the interest of our citizens, in the interest of our countries, the cohesion of our societies, and the well-being of all those on the move and the communities they leave behind. Thank you very much for your attention.